Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're diving into a Queen Wag Toggle game that really just shows how strong Quilboars can be. Quilboars right now have two main ways to play them. You're generally playing Divine Shields with like Gem Splitter, or you're playing the Choose One. This comp ends up being kind of a mix between the two. Really, I think this is just a really solid comp that you should be playing just to kind of really be strong and really factory line as the anomaly allows us to stabilize and find triples really easily. Because we're playing Queen Wag Toggle, the general leveling strat that you want to do is do some type of 3-on-3 build and use your or Tavern Tier 3 minions as a way to stabilize. Generally, you'll find two Tier 3s. We end up just finding one that has a tribe, but that's still enough for us to stabilize. Because we were using the factory line anomaly, really the main plan here is we don't need to focus on finding triples. If we find them, they're great. You'll see here on turn 6 that we do find the Gem Splitter triple, and that lets us start copying a 5-drop on turn 6. But really, you don't need to force them. Just find the triples that you need, and you can just hold on to pairs when it makes sense. Some of the key minions that you're going to be, well, I guess besides key minions, when you're playing Quilboars, there's really two things that you need to kind of focus on. One is gem generation, and one is gem scaling. Really, there's only two ways to scale gems in the current meta, and it might change in the next patch. I haven't looked at the Season 10 stuff for Quilboars much, but right now, the main ways to scale would be using something like Foodie, like we do on turn 7, or Pokey, or the new Choose One on Tavern Tier 4. Generally, the Choose One route only works if you have like some type of like end of turn synergies going on, whether that be duplicating the end of turns or you have some type of other like Choose One effects on top of it. I think the Gem Splitter build is actually a lot better at getting you like a stable, solid top 4 type pick. Divine Shields are generally a very safe way to play the game. Even when you lose, you're generally not going to be taking max damage, and assuming you get enough stats on them, you're able to compete pretty well. Main cards that you end up finding once you do have some of these gems scaled up is going to be something like Charlga, which or Charles is what we sometimes call him, which plays a Quilboar on all of our minions. On turn 9, we're able to find 2 of him, and then the other card that we're kind of looking for a lot of the times is now a Turbo Hog Rider. Turbo Hog Rider lets us play a Quilboar on all of our play a Blood Gem on all of our Quilboars, assuming that we are able to play Choose One cards. And generally, the strat that you'll do is you'll try to cycle a lot of the Choose One cards. Don't forget that some of the non-Quilboar Choose Ones do affect this. So, like the Scarab with Beastin will help you do that. There's the one called Spell that's a Choose One effect. And those are just some ways that you can get some extra gems for less stats, and so you don't need to roll quite as much. The other thing to kind of remember while playing this is because we're doing Gem Splitter as our gem generation, we're kind of limited on how many gems we're going to be getting every turn using that method. You're only able to get 10, so 10 gems, in your hand before your hand is full. So playing more than really 3 Divine Shields ends up not being worth it for us. And that's because we did have the one regular Gem Splitter, and then we did have one golden one. So if we have 3 Divine Shields, we should be able to get 9 gems that way. And then with the factory line, we're probably getting our 10th card that way, and that's how we avoid like wasting effectiveness. After this, really the main ways that we play the late game is finding that Turbo Hog Rider will be really what is the win condition for us. We don't need to worry about tripling the 2-drop, just it's going to be getting Divine Shields anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. I also I don't even really value tripling it. Like the golden is essentially the same thing. Like it makes it so the Divine Shield's permanent, and that's really not that big of a deal. But finding the duplicate Pokey is actually really huge for us. Main thing is, again, we're in factory line, and getting a golden Pokey makes it so we only need 1 board space for the 2 stats, where right now we're doing 2 Pokies for 2 stats every turn, because that's really the only blood gem scaling that we had. Having that extra spot then allows us to play something like the Turbo Hog Rider or some other type of long-term scaling for our gem. So yeah, really, you don't need to be kind of caught in the current meta of choose one Quilboars, really, or at least in the like mid game for your scaling using the choose one like engine for your gem scaling and gem generation. This will show you how using the Divine Shield core is oftentimes just as good of a comp as it is in the late game. Once you have the core of this, which is really just gem splitter and pokey, then you can just add on from there. Um, you could consider doing something like any of the other divine shields or whatever, but like that's really just kind of like icing on the cake in terms of like what you actually need. This is really the core. Once we find the Turbo Hog Rider, I actually misplay here because I don't recognize the scarabs. But on turn 13, the play would have been to take those scarabs and use those as my gem playing. I ended up just wasting a lot of stats because I missed those. Just kind of wrapping up and to kind of summarize how we actually want to play um, the mix between Queen Wagtoggle and this Quilboar comp. Ideally, Wagtoggle, you're always going to 3-on-3. Whatever 3-drop you find, you can kind of just use those to stabilize. Then you go back to the meta play, which is establish a comp on something like tier 4. And after you have that comp, then you can actually play. Because we had Factory Line, we were easily able to get 5-drops because of getting triples, and that was where we finally were able to like all in on playing the Quilboar comp. Between Pokey and the Gem Splitters, that's when we finally were able to say we are playing this comp. It's kind of hard right now just to say when you're actually like in a comp and when you're just kind of leaning this comp. But this was one of those games where like we were able to essentially just all in a comp from the very beginning because we had that direction so early, and having the early 3-drops that are actually like game impacting on someone like Wagtoggle gives you a lot of that ability to all in early on the comp and not needing to essentially roll a lot. If you notice, we did not need to do a lot of rolling because we got into a comp, and we really only started rolling once we were on 6 and we were trying to finalize and scale more with the Turbo Hog Riders. What's really nice about the Hog Riders is it gives you just a way in the late game to not have to play like 7 minions and to just cycle to get yourself more stats. So anyways, hopefully this quick gameplay just gives you a good idea of how to play Quilboars in the current meta. Be interested in seeing how relevant this is once Season 10 comes around, and look forward to some of the new content for those too. See ya.